Hello, everybody. Oh, please sit. You may not feel that way in an hour, so. Thank you so much for coming out. Can everybody hear me in the back? Good, we like it that way. We're going to talk about you. Honestly, the speech Gail was talking about was like most of my speeches, just off the top of my head. And I pray before every speech, and I'll take a few notes. But sometimes the Lord just takes me places, and I walk off the stage and I say, didn't have that planned. But He is speaking to all of us now. And when Gail called me to say if I would come out and repeat it, I had to go look it up and re-listen to it a couple of times. And I honestly don't know what Gail heard in it that she thought you needed to hear. But it's not just a message for Utah. It is a message for the whole world that the Lord wants everybody to know. We are entering a new time. You know, they say, how did you go bankrupt? How did you go broke? Well, it took a very long time and then all at once. That's how bankruptcy happens. You see it coming for a while. You're like, okay, this is getting bad, and then one day something happens and it tubes immediately and it's over. When the events of the day come, they're going to come as a thief in the night. They're going to come like a bankruptcy. It's going to happen overnight. How many of us would have thought that tonight Israel would be at war with Hamas, and by this weekend we could be facing World War III, all of us? Who thought of that 10 days ago? The events are going to come faster and faster and faster, and you're not going to be able to keep up with it. And I also fear that you are going to be the one that has to decipher the truth and replace the people like me that may lose a platform or may have to just go from town to town under trees and just talk to people like they used to in the old days. Because everything is about to change. If we look at the list of the problems that we have, I don't know about your family, but I have worked so hard on trying to give my children somewhat of a normal life. We have tried to balance things and to teach them and to be good examples. In the last 24 months, out of my 4 children, 3 of them have tried to kill themselves. It is everywhere, and it is evil. If it hasn't come to your door yet, thank God, but it will. We are living in historic times. We have highest rate of suicide, up 25% in America in the last 10 years. 25%, yet no one in the medical community is really talking about that one. We'll talk about pandemics, but 25% increase of death through suicide, no one wants to address. Why? Because the answers to it, I believe, are obvious. And no one wants to discuss it. No one wants to do it. It's evil in our homes. It's evil in our society. It is a society that is built up to tell you you're not worthy. There is no forgiveness if you're born of this color. There's no forgiveness if you believe this. You have to be shunned and there's no coming back. Meanwhile, everyone is searching for something that is true. How do I know what is true? And look at what we're doing. We're posting lies about our own self, our own families. We're posting lies all the time on social media. Has anybody noticed? Have you watched teenagers take pictures? It's an amazing thing. I mean, when I was growing up, we had pictures, and usually, it was one of us that was cross-eyed and looking ridiculous. Now, watch teenagers. They do this. They all of a sudden turn it on. And it's not that moment. I've watched them. That's not what you're doing. That's not how you're feeling. And the minute the camera is off, all of you just, okay, got that. Everything is a lie. Nothing is truly real. Our education is so far off course, they are teaching lies. They're teaching the lies in history. They are teaching the lies that gender can be changed. Gender is God ordained. It cannot change. That is the truth. Every day I get up and it's my job to try to figure out what it is that you need to know about. And I look at anywhere from 60 to 90 stories that have been culled by me and my staff over 24 hours, 21 hours actually. As soon as we finish the show, within 10 minutes, we're talking about the next day's show and looking for new updates and new news. I get about 90 raw every morning. I read all of them. And then I have to figure out which ones get onto the show. It can be as few as 3. And all of them are important. We have debt, division, violence, no leadership, Marxism, bribery, the dollar crashing. We have war. We have the insanity of DEI and transgenderism. We have the evil of abortion. Which one do we focus on? Which one of these things is fixable? Look at where we are. I know I couldn't have told you these things 15 years ago and had people believe me because I told you 15 years ago, and most of America laughed. Look at where we are. What caused it? And how do we fix it? Can it be fixed? Most people are now getting into a place of despair. There's no hope. I can't even listen to it anymore. I got to turn it off. It's too frustrating. It's too big. I know that's not the answer, because you have to know where we are on the map of life. If you plant your head in the sand, we will not be able to fight it, because you won't see what's coming. Now, how do you do that? And quite honestly, not end up looking like this. How do you do that? I want to tell you a bit of my conversion story. I was a wreck of a human being. At 8 years old, I felt I heard God's voice. At 8 years old, I heard him say, What you do will be a turning point. I didn't know what that meant. I knew at 8 I wanted to do radio. And at 13, I started doing radio. And by 16, I had some of the greatest talent and programmers in America tell me and talk about me, around me, as a golden boy. As you don't see this very often. Imagine, he's this good now. Imagine what he'll be at 25. And when you hear that at 13, 14, 15, 16, and you're doing things that people at 25 don't do, you start to believe it. And I started to believe all of that garbage. And I thought for sure, I'm going to do something in radio that's a turning point. And I became arrogant. And the more arrogant I became, the further away from anything I felt. By the time I was 30, I was an alcoholic. I was angry. I hadn't dealt with my mother's suicide. I hadn't dealt with anything. I'm just focused on doing something that's going to turn something. Finally, my 30th birthday, I'm at the smallest radio station I had been in my career since I was like 16 years old. I was friendless. I was hopeless. My family was breaking up. I had absolutely no answers, but I still was arrogant. My 30th birthday came, and I remember looking at the clock in my bedroom. And it was one of those old digital clocks, and it might be my alcoholism, but the way I remember those clocks is sometimes you would look at the numbers and they would kind of jump a little bit. Could be the drinking, don't know. But it flipped to 12. And I heard, your life is about to change. And I knew it had to. But I had no answers, none. I just knew I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to do drugs anymore. I was done with all of it. I was facing a moment within the next 3 years that my mother was facing. My mother committed suicide when I was young. That's where I was. And I, tried to do all the things that, I don't know, stupid people do. Make yourself feel better. I went on a search for God. I did the really stupid thing. I went to Yale to find him. That didn't work out so well. I went to my first AA meeting, and I sat there, and I had to stand up and say, "Hi, my name is Glenn." I said, "Hi, my name is Glenn. I'm not sure I'm an alcoholic, but I just don't want to drink today." And then I said, "But here's the weird thing. You make me feel like I might be an alcoholic because you don't look like alcoholics." And they all laughed. They're like, "What does an alcoholic?" "You know, somebody who lives on the street." No. This old lady, she had to be 70. She was wearing a sweater set and pearls. White hair, beautiful. She's sitting right in front of me. She didn't even turn around. When I said that, all she said was, "Oh, honey, we're all drunks in here." I reintroduced myself. "Hi, my name is Glenn, and I'm an alcoholic." Alcoholism forces you to do something that I think everyone should do. Take a moral inventory of your life. No, back up. First, surrender. Surrender. When you're an alcoholic, and you don't have to be an alcoholic to get this, you're juggling so many lies in your life. You are just trying to keep your head above water in some way or another. Just stay above water, just stay above water. And so your life becomes very complex. And the more you try to fix it, the worse it gets. And then you think to yourself, I'm just a horrible person. I'm a bad person. Everybody else seems to be able to deal with this. Why can't I deal with this? And it gets worse and worse and worse. So the first step is surrender. Surrender. You are powerless over this problem. Everything you try to do doesn't seem to work. Does that sound familiar in America today? Everything we try to do, and we overthink it. You know what? I got a strategy. If I vote for this guy, then this guy will actually lose, and this guy will win, and then we play all kinds of games, trying to strategize everything, and none of it seems to change anything. Surrender. Then, recognize there is a God. There is a God, and God is the only thing that can save us from insanity. That's step number 2. Then you really start to have to get brave, because you have to make a moral inventory of your life. The things that you have hidden your whole life, the things that are the most cringeworthy. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but I am happy to say I don't do this anymore, but it took me years to get over it. I would hear things in my head, things that I had said or things that I had done, and if I were in the car, I'd turn the radio up to drown it out. Or I'd whistle, or I'd sing, or I'd do anything, because I didn't want to think and dwell on the things that I had done in my past. I don't know if this is relatable to any of you. But you take a moral inventory, and then you give it to God. I mean, this is really the steps to baptism. It's why alcoholics, we should all be Mormons. But it's weird being an alcoholic Mormon. I don't drink. 2 reasons. I'm Mormon, and I'm an alcoholic. You figure it out. I was lucky enough to meet a woman who said no to marrying me. And the reason why she said no is because we didn't share God. She was Catholic. I went to Yale. She wouldn't marry me unless we found a faith that we could both do. And a friend who did the most important thing, and this will come up again later. The most important thing, the man who changed my life, is my dear friend Pat, who I worked with forever. And he saw me struggle, and all the time that he would see me struggle, he'd come in and go, you know, life doesn't have to be this hard. And I'd say, back up, bike boy, I know your answers, no thank you. It's being stubborn. That won't work for me. You don't know, I'm special. So, he would just leave. And he'd never say anything. If you ever need help, call me. And I watched him like a hawk. I watched him. I'd watch him struggle, and his family would have the same problems I have. And then the next day, he'd come in, and he was okay. He'd have death in the family, and he was okay. In fact, it was sometimes he was so okay, it kind of pissed me off a little bit. He could make it through the things I couldn't make through. But he never preached to me. He just lived it and was a great example and was always there to help me. When we stopped working together the first time, he gave me a gift. And this was right as I was sobering up. And he gave me a book and he said, "This is the most important thing I could ever give you. This is the most valuable thing I have. And it's the only thing that I wish you would someday consider, because the answers are here." I still have that Book of Mormon that he gave me. I put it on my desk and I didn't read it for a couple of years, until my wife said no. And Pat called me, and we were going to churches. We were going to all kinds of churches. We went to a church, and I'm not making this up. We actually went to a church. Halfway through the sermon, the preacher said, "Well, you all know that I don't believe in God, but..." I looked around at the pews. I didn't know that. Did you guys really know that? I mean, you should have that on a sign out front. "Come in, our preacher doesn't believe in God." It's an amazing thing. We went everywhere, and then Pat called me and said, "So, are you really doing a church tour?" And I said, "We're already past the C's or the M's or the J's or whatever you guys are calling yourself now. We're already past that in the phone book." And then he said the most piercing thing anyone could say to me. "Oh, I thought this was an honest search for truth." Okay, what time? 9 to noon. 9 to what? Your God's not powerful enough. Everybody else can get it done in an hour. Catholics can do it in 45 minutes. You need 3 hours? I got there, and then I closed the hymnal at the end of the first verse, and they kept singing, and I'm like, that's the problem. You sing one verse, you move on. We got things to do. I finally gave in because of a man who, to my shame, I called the amazing Mr. Plastic Man. The amazing Mr. Plastic Man and his amazing family with the accessories of the piano. They gather together, they sing, they're happy. They sing around the piano, and they're still happy. We're so happy. We love you. We're so glad you're here. We just love you. No, you don't. Give me 5 minutes. You won't love me. We were in priesthood, and we were talking about the concept of Zion. And he was teaching. And he said, "Brothers, how do we make this happen?" And we all had different answers. And then his eyes welled up. And he said, "There's really only one way. And that is, if I love you and you love me, and I love you and you love me, and I love you and you and you and you love me. We may not know each other. We may not even like each other. But we know that we are truly brothers and sisters. And so we will love and serve one another because we have a Father in common. And Dad wants all of his children back. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose any of my children. It breaks my heart to think a third of God's children left. I'll be lucky to have any of them at the end. But I want all of them. And even when my kids are misbehaving, this last 24 months, I mean, you name it, it has happened. And we're like, wait, what? The only thing is, my son didn't come home in a dress. Thank God. I shouldn't have said that now, maybe. But everything else seemed to happen. And then it would piss all the other children off. Dad, you gotta stop this. This is crazy. Shush. Let me deal with it. And you stop saying things to your brother or to your sister that's going to leave a mark on them. Words have real power, and you're going to say something, and they will forever remember that. I know, because when my mom committed suicide, this stupid 12-year-old kid looked at my sister who had an argument with mom the night before, and I said, if something's happened to her, it's your fault. I completely forgot about it. At 30, when I sobered up, I went to my sisters and I said, we got to talk about what? We got to talk about mom's suicide. We've never addressed it. We've never talked about it. And my sister got up with tears in her eyes and she said, I didn't kill her. I said, why would you even think that? Because that's what you said to me that morning. Don't leave a mark on your brothers and sisters because they're your only family. They're the only people that really are going to be there in the end. Stop it. Because I want all of my children around me in the end. Pat told me something when I first joined the church. First discussion with the missionaries did not go well. I was reading McConkie's Mormon Doctrine before I met with him, and I highlighted it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. And I don't want to get into the question that I asked, but I asked some deep, deep doctrine because it had to be true. If the church was going to be consistent in its truth, then this had to be. But I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I asked the missionaries. They had their little cups out. Okay, here, there's a cup, and see, we stack them up. And I don't remember what they were saying. And I just said, stop. Tell me about this. And they just looked at each other. And then they looked at me. Well, I said, you gotta be kidding me. You don't actually believe that, do you? They said, yes. Now I'm torn because now I'm like, oh crap. It would have to be true. If the rest of this is true, that has to be true. But I don't want to believe that. I get Pat on the phone and I said, I walked out, call him up. He'd been praying. Please, Lord, don't let him kill the missionaries. And I just said 2 words to him. And it was the question I asked the missionaries. And his response was, what kind of crappy missionaries do you have up there where they're bringing this up? They didn't have to. They didn't have to. I'm looking for the truth. And so when I found it, I got into the waters of baptism and I did something I don't recommend. When I saw the amazing Mr. Plastic Man cry, I realized what he said was true. He was not made of plastic. He was the most genuine man I had ever met. He was living the life I didn't think you could actually live. He was happy. He was genuinely happy. He genuinely loved people. I couldn't imagine that. But I sat there in the pew and I thought, I don't know anything about the temples. I don't know if there's chickens involved or whatever is going on. But I want to be like that guy. And we got baptized. And as I'm standing in the water, I needed the redemption. I needed it. I feel sorry for all you goody two-shoes who are just like, yeah, I got baptized when I was 8. I hit my sister once. I don't want God to work too hard on me. I put him to work. And I stood in the water and I said, you cease to be God if you break your promise, because you are making a covenant with me. I will do what you say, and you will forgive me and take all of this off my back. And if you don't do that, you're not really God. Then I arrogantly said, and it's not going to be me that breaks this promise. Not a good idea. It's because of my arrogance and my need was so great, and because of my arrogance saying to the Almighty God of heaven and earth, yeah, I'm going to take you for a whirl. I'll take you out, see what's going on, see what you got to offer, see what you can do for my life. And, you're doing those things. I'll do some of those things you want me to do. Because of the arrogance I had, and because he immediately released me of all of those problems in a miraculous way that nothing else could have worked. Nothing. Only a real living God that follows through on his promises and knows me and cares about me as an individual could do that. I realized I must keep my side of the promise. I know I can never earn this. I know I didn't deserve it, but I never, ever want it to come back, ever. So, Lord, I will do what you ask me to do. No one would even consider hiring me. No one would consider hiring me. My first little test talk show I did, I looked at my producer, Stu, and I said, we're going to replace Dr. Laura. He was like, how about we finish the show first? And I said, I'm telling you, I have a feeling we're going to replace Dr. Laura. 4 years later, I get a call from Premier Radio Networks. They had an opening. They talked to Rush Limbaugh about it. He approved. We'd like you to replace Dr. Laura. No one would hire me, and my career did this. Now, why am I telling you this long story? Because really, this is all about me, okay? You're here, and we're talking about my favorite subject, me. I'm telling you this because the question I asked you before, are any of these problems fixable? The answer is, yeah. If the God Almighty will just spend a minute with me, fixing me, if God Almighty can raise people from the dead, I don't know, I think the debt problem's probably pretty simple for him. Seems like simple math. I've seen the universe. He's got to be a pretty good mathematician. I think he can do it. We have to know what we have hope in, what we have faith in. I have no faith in anybody. No offense. Well, you especially, but don't put your faith in men. I say this, I've said it for years, and I mean it sincerely. Don't ever take my word for it. I'm an alcoholic DJ. I barely know what I'm talking about. Do your own homework. Your life is your calling. Don't assign the finding of truth to someone else. Don't repeat things because I said it. Repeat it because you know it is true. Make the truth yours. Own it. That's when it has power. How do you know it is true? My gosh, it's pretty easy. See the dude over there wearing the dress? That's a guy. It's that easy. It's that easy. Did you hear? Herman is having a baby. Nope. Either Herman has a gigantic cancerous tumor he's carrying around, or Herman isn't his birth name. Men cannot have babies. Women are women. Men are men. Good is good. Evil is evil. I don't care what you say, but if you go into a house, I don't care. I'm on the Lord's side, and he told me I got to go into this house and shoot all of the people and the children in their beds. You aren't on the Lord's side. I don't know who you're talking to, but you ain't talking to God. And no matter how oppressed you are, you don't do that. There are moral and eternal truths. And those are the things we have to surrender to. You know, this problem is caused because we're all nice. Not you, but we're all nice. We try to be nice. We try to be tough. I don't care what you do. I really don't. I mean, if you're doing evil, you know, can you take that someplace else? Maybe you go to Mars with Musk. I don't know. But I don't care. I'm journeying with you in this life. I've made so many mistakes. What, I'm going to judge you for doing the things that I probably mastered by the time I was 12? No. You'll figure it out. It's going to leave a mark, but you'll figure it out. But our compassion, our decency has turned into suicidal insanity. We must always stand up. If someone is saying, hey, boys and girls, and those of you who are neither, you get up right now. I love all of you. I love this teacher, but that's not true. And I'm going to be going out this door because I am not going to endorse lies, harmful, evil lies by sitting through it. We all think that we're not strong enough. I don't know. Maybe this is just, I don't know. Honestly, it is about me. I'm only telling you what is true in my life. You might all be looking at me going, boy, that dude is really screwed up. But I think all the time, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. On September 11th, Trade Center, I'm watching it. I'm doing a comedy show on radio. That's what I was doing. I was doing a radio comedy show. I hadn't thought of anything big and important ever. And I had just signed my contract with Premier to replace Dr. Laura nationwide. And September 11th happened. And my contract was supposed to begin January 1st, and the company calls me up and says, you're on the air this Friday. What? I'm on my knees, begging the Lord. No, you got the wrong guy. I don't have anything to say to people. I don't have a single answer. I have news for you. I still don't have an answer. I don't have the wrong guy. Yeah, I thought you were smarter than this, God. You have the wrong guy. But I'll try. That's all he requires, is to try, to teach yourself, to search for it. You cannot learn it through osmosis. You cannot learn it any other way than actively getting into it and looking for yourself, tearing everything apart inside of you. Israel means to wrestle with God. How many people have actually been on the mat with God? I have been. I have been. I know God is God because I've wrestled with him. He pins me every time, but I've wrestled with him. I've questioned him. I have shown him the respect that he deserves. But he wants me to know him personally. He doesn't want you to be afraid. He doesn't want you to be afraid about anything. Why do you think he put the last book in the Bible, he put the scary one there? I mean, there's a lot of the Old Testament I find scary, but in the New Testament, why is that there? I got to tell you, I'm going to do the Jesus thing, and then I'm going to freak them out with the ending. Dragons, blood, they're going to freak out. That's not why he did it. He did it because he's a loving God and wants you not to freak out when it happens. He wants you to see it, read it, know it, recognize it. Oh, I've seen this in the scriptures. Oh, I've seen this pattern before. I know what this means. You know what honestly gave me hope? I met with some people. They might be crazy as loons, but they talked about the second coming and their philosophy that we might be on the verge because of the prophecies that are being fulfilled. And I go into this and I left it with, the apostles thought he was coming too, and he didn't come. And it might be 1,000 years, but it could be in the next 10. And you know what? I was in such a low place, and I guess maybe I still am because I still feel the same way. I had hope. I had hope. Man, I do not want to go through the part where he's, driving up to the house. That's gonna suck. But to be able to see him, to be able to prepare the way for him right now, do you know what an honor that is? Do you know how many billions of people have come and gone off of the face of the earth, waiting, begging for that time, and somehow or another we won the lottery to be born at this time in this country with this technology. The truth on earth. What an honor. What an honor it is. And we all think we're not worthy. You are. You are. But it's time to go to boot camp because he's coming. And you got to get in shape. Not the guy to listen to. You got to get in shape for it. You have to be mentally prepared. Honestly, when Gail called me, I didn't want to come to Utah because it will be reported that Glenn Beck is talking to the Mormons about a covenant. It's probably a secret cult thing. No, it's for everyone. It's for everyone. But I will tell you, I did it because this population does understand a covenant. And they know. And if you don't know this, God help you. Do not take a covenant unless you're all in, because God will not be mocked. We are fighting evil right now. Evil. You should get up every morning and say, in the name of Jesus Christ, Satan, beat it. Get out of here. Leave my family. Leave me alone. We're fighting evil. And the first thing you have to realize is it's real. It's real, and it seems to be everywhere. And 5 years ago, you may not have looked at it that way. But if you can explain what's happening on our earth in other ways other than secret combinations that want power and control and evil, I don't know how else you can explain it. I don't know how else you can explain it. That is what is happening. The destruction of the family, I don't know. Killing children in Hamas, it's wrong. Killing children in an abortion clinic, it's just as wrong. What are both of them trying to do? Wipe out the family. By the way, Planned Parenthood, since it's getting tougher to sell the abortions, Planned Parenthood has now just adopted as their new cause transgenderism. They're now in their clinics providing the hormones to sterilize children. This is evil. It is attacking the family. It is attacking our children. It is attacking the basic functions. The only time you partner with the Lord, the only time is in creation. You and your spouse partner with the Lord. You cannot create, you might be able to create the physical baby, but you can't create the soul. You've partnered with him, and we've cheapened it. We've made it tawdry. Do you know in London there are 200,000, I'm sorry, not in London, in all of England, Great Britain, there are 200,000 abortions a year. 200,000. Here's why this number is a little staggering. Do you know how many marriages they have in Great Britain now per year? 200,000. We are killing children at the rate of marriage. That number of marriage is going down. Abortion is going up. There is no other word than evil. But you were selected to be here at this time for a reason. Stop, I beg you, if you think I have nothing to offer, I'm too small, I don't have any ideas, you have everything you need. Everything. It's all within you. You may not recognize it yet, because when I went through my moral inventory, you know what stopped me from looking really deeply? Is I was afraid if I emptied all of that stuff out, there was nothing left. There wasn't a good guy inside. There wasn't anything that God could use that I could use. I really had convinced myself that the only thing that I had was pain and agony and ugliness. That's a lie. But you got to go through the hard work. I talked to Billy Graham before he died. We became friends in the last 5 or 6 years of his life. I can only compare him to some of our leadership that I have met. You know when you meet somebody and they are with God. Billy Graham was amazing, amazing. Looking into his piercing blue eyes, I sat this close to his face and we were just sharing our testimony back and forth, whispering to each other. And he said to me, Glenn, I've made so many mistakes in my life. I keep getting credit for things that God did. I didn't do those things. God did those things. The mistakes are the ones that I made. But I'm not afraid to die because I know where I'm going. It was an amazing moment of great and profound truth and faith. He did point out, I'm not afraid to die, but the whole process of dying has me a little spooked. But he told me a story. I said, Billy, where is Abraham Lincoln? Where is George Washington? Where's a leader? Where's the next you, Billy? Because I don't see him on a pulpit anywhere. I don't see the fire coming from anybody who actually believes it and knows it to be true and know there are consequences, eternal consequences, for me to speak to you and say anything but what I know to be true. I don't want to be this guy. I've never wanted to be this guy. I grew up in an alcoholic family. I'm the one that would make the jokes while people were falling down the stairs, drunk or arguing. I don't like conflict. And I find myself at the center of conflict all the time. I hate that. But it's what I've been asked to do. So you do it. You're being asked to do something. And as Billy Graham said to me, Glenn, it's not going to happen the way it always happens. God's tired of everybody else getting the credit for what he's doing. He is telling people all over the world, look, I just want you to do this one thing. And that's it. No more, no less. Just do this one thing. And it's all different. He's not telling us all the same thing. It's all different because we all have our own calling and our own piece. And then he said, it's like God is about to throw a surprise party for Satan. And all the lights are off. And everybody is feeling stupid standing there in the dark because they don't know it's a party. They're just standing in the dark with the one thing that they think they've been saying for months to the Lord. This isn't going to work. I don't know what I'm doing here with this. I don't even understand what I'm doing. And pretty soon, one of them will say it out loud, and somebody else will say, there's somebody else here? Yeah. What are you doing here? I don't know. I was told to stand here. I've got this widget. You have what? A widget. Wait a minute. What does that look like? And they'll realize that the person they're standing next to has the other piece. And that's when the lights go on, Satan walks in, and the Lord says, surprise! And it's a mosaic that only the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob could have assembled. Then all men will know who is the King of Kings. There is battery acid for the soul. And it is fame and fortune. It is arrogance, hubris. It'll destroy you. Destroy you. And I want you to know, I've given this advice to so many people, not in a crowd, but people who I know are about to do something enormous. And they will come to my office or my home for advice. And I give them the same advice every time. If you really are going to do this, and you really are doing it in the name of God, God will protect you. If you are saving souls, saving his children, he'll protect you. But know at the same time, you are putting a gigantic bullseye on your back. And we're not living in a good world right now. We're living in a world where Satan thinks he's winning. And that target is painted on your back because you can do good. And you will do good. And people will see it and it will give them hope. That is a bad place to be. Unless you know it. And when you least expect the arrow and the fiery darts, that's when it's going to come. And it's going to come, and you're going to dismiss the reason why you shouldn't do it. You'll think it's only one little thing, one little compromise, and before you know it, you're out. I've had many friends who have done things that are powerful and great. Unfortunately, I've had many dear friends also. They're men and women. They're flawed. They make a mistake. And the most disturbing thing I hear when I see people talk about mistakes is this: oh no. The disappointment. Hope is fragile and fleeting. Hope is what will keep us alive. It will keep us together as a people. Hope, without it, there is nothing but despair. He wants you to fail. Satan does. He wants you to fail in such a spectacular way that you will show others who are looking your way, if he couldn't do it, I couldn't. That's a lie. It's a lie. And if you do indeed fail, get on your knees. Admit it, square it up with God, square it up with the universe, and then get back up and get back into the battle. We need everyone. You are not exempt from redemption. Just do what he says. How do you know it's him? Well, if he's saying, you should take the afternoon off, maybe do a vacation, get some shut-eye, that's not the Lord. If it's something you're like, oh, please don't say this, don't say, oh, not that. That's most likely the Lord. I don't know why. My first bishop said, I said, so wait a minute. This is whole lay clergy. Yeah. How are you selected? Like, how did you become bishop? Well, you're just selected, in prayer. And I said, do you have any qualifications for that? Or is it just, you're just selected? He said, you're just selected. And he said, he's always trying to get you where you have a deficit. You'll always serve really in something that you don't want to do. That's why I printed up buttons that said Beck for Bishop. Vote for me, pray on it, you never know. Vote for me. I really want the job. There are miracles that are happening. We focus on the bad, but there are miracles that are happening. Miracles. I don't know how many of you know what many of you probably did in Afghanistan. When people were trapped, it was one of the lowest points on the air for me. I lost complete faith in my country. What are we doing? How are we leaving people behind? How is that possible? Somebody's got to do something. Not me. I was just saying that. I don't want to do it. I don't know how to do it. And I called one of the guys who runs one of my charities, and I said, how much would it take to get 10,000 people out? He said, I have no idea if it can even be done. I'll call you tomorrow. I put him on the air because I knew we were running out of time, and I didn't know the number. And he said, it will probably take $20 million, and we need it by Friday if we're going to make a difference. And in my head, I'm thinking, there's no way. I've done this for 40 years at the time. No way. Not going to happen. No way. Not only did that happen, in checks of $10, $20, $50, and $100, no big corporation coming in, just regular people. In 3 days, we had, I think, $23 million by Friday. And by the end of the next week, we had 40. In the end, it was $47 million. We were the planes. I watched it on the news. I saw satellite pictures of planes that were sitting at the airport ready to take off. Those were all ours. When the biggest thing was, but I was going over to the Middle East, I said to the guy, okay, if we get the money, how do we get the airport to let us take off? I have no idea. I landed, 10 hours later? I called him up. Do we figure that out? He said, you're not going to believe this. Guess who's now running the airport? I said, who? And he said, me. There are miracles. When Americans were stuck in Israel, I didn't have to ask you for money. The money was already there. Those planes are $880,000 a flight. I didn't have to ask you. Our planes were on the ground. Our planes are in the air tonight, returning Americans to America. Look for miracles because they are all around you. They may be small, but I am promising you now, I testify to you that in your lifetime, well, maybe not yours, you're getting a little old. But in your lifetime, you will see the finger and maybe the hand and the whole arm of God. You will see Moses-style miracles. But only if we repair the damage we've done to each other and to ourselves first. We must, don't get me wrong. Mormons, I wouldn't use peculiar. I'd say flat out weird, okay? We have to up our weirdness. Hate to say that, but we have to. We have to be even more peculiar. Every Christian of every faith needs to be more peculiar. You know, I really truly believe, I don't know what the mark of the beast is, but I've wondered, how are we going to know? How are we going to know who we can trust? Have you ever met anybody who's on fire for the Lord and you look at him and you're like, whoa, turn those eyes down a bit. It's like Rudolph's red nose. I think that is the mark of the Lord. That's how we're going to know. That's how we all have to be. If we're going to serve, we need to have the Spirit in our eyes so strongly that other fellow travelers of the Lord will know who to trust. There are 3,753 promises in the Bible. 3,753. There are 7 covenants. A covenant is very different than a promise. A promise is, you do this, I'll do this. And there's a heck of a lot of grace there. If you screw it up, that's all right. I'm going to forgive you and we'll continue. That's not a covenant. That's a promise. A covenant is, I will do this and you must do that. And it is a contract. It is as close to a legal contract as you can get. It is a sacred, obligatory contract that once you sign it, did anybody know what a bill of divorce is? A bill of divorce or a bill of divorcement, I can't remember what they were called. You actually, if you wanted to get into a divorce with your spouse, it's much worse than you had to go to trial. In the old days, you needed a bill of divorce, meaning it ended up at the Capitol with the representatives, the Senate, and signed by the government, the governor. Okay, bill of divorcement. And then in Virginia, one colony that had it this way, you not only had to do that, you also had to have a jury trial. Okay, Senate, governor, House already approved it. We need a jury of your peers to sit and listen to this story. That's how serious marriage covenants used to be. Now it's like, I don't know. She wakes up and she's got stinky breath. I had to divorce her. Who wouldn't? These are obligations. And if you take the covenant with the Lord, He will expect you to live up to it. God will not be mocked. Here's the thing. There are certain things that you know about God. You know, there's some things He's just not going to dance around, you know? Well, I really thought I was doing the right thing. By worshiping the golden calf? No, I don't believe that. Bye-bye. There are things that He doesn't mess around with. Covenants are one of them. John Winthrop in 1630, on the ship coming to America, they make a covenant with the Lord. They say, basically, we're going to this new land. We want to do something different. We are going to need God. So this is how we're going to live. And we're basing it on the Scriptures. Our laws will come from the Scriptures. And we will not violate this. We will keep each other in check, and we will make a covenant. Protect us, Lord. Be our God, and we will be your people. Well, they did. Most people don't know all of what he said, because when Winthrop talked about this, he gave the judgment part out as well. And most people know this. If we should deal falsely with our God, we shall become a story and a byword. Story and a byword. Has anybody ever heard that from John Winthrop? That's what he said. We will live this way. We will make a covenant. But if we deal falsely with him, we will become a story and a byword. Well, I like stories, and I don't know what a byword means. So what's the problem? Well, he goes on. He then says, we shall open the mouths of our enemies to speak evil of the ways of God. We shall shame the faces of God's worthy servants and will cause their prayers to be turned into curses upon us until we be consumed out of this good land. That's a covenant. If we don't do this, the smiting and smote part of the Bible starts to happen. We've made a covenant 3 times. We made it with the Pilgrims. Then we made it at the inauguration of George Washington. Most people don't know. They didn't go drinking after, hey, guess who's president? Try out your new chair. Instead, he said, for anybody who wants to join me, I'm walking to the church. I'm going to make a covenant with the Lord. Beg for his forgiveness and his blessings on this country. They all knelt for 4 hours in prayer. He made a sacred covenant. When Abraham Lincoln came into office, we were losing the nation. We were losing the Union. We lost every single battle, every single one, but one, up to Gettysburg. Lincoln said at the time, I was not a Christian. He knew the Bible inside out, but he wasn't really living it. I wasn't a Christian when I was elected president. I wasn't a Christian when I came to the presidency. I wasn't really a Christian when I lost my son. It wasn't until I stood in the battlegrounds of Gettysburg that I became a Christian. He was broken. He surrendered. Lord, what do you want? Surrender. It's not about you. It's not even about the Union. It's about my children that are in slavery. I don't care if your whole country is wiped out. This must stop, and these people must be freed. that's when everything changed. He got up off his knees and he made a covenant. It actually was passed by the House and the Senate. Believe it or not, I've asked Mike Lee, Chris Stewart, some of my friends, hey, can you guys pass this? And I know the president won't sign it, but can you just pass this? No. You can't even bring it to the floor, Glenn. It won't even be allowed to come to the floor. The covenant with God, written by Abraham Lincoln, we are that far off. We're not at the byword or story part. We're farther down the road. The Lord has told me for a long time to do the covenant. I'm not a preacher. I'm an alcoholic DJ. And he hasn't left me alone. And I always find an excuse not to do it. And finally, right before COVID, we were going to go to Gettysburg and we were going to restore the covenant. We had this whole thing planned. It actually almost cost us bankruptcy because of COVID. And that happened, and then it was gone, and I keep hearing covenant, covenant, covenant. And I remember praying about it, and I'm saying, Lord, okay, I'll find some way to gather enough people. And he was finally recognizing who he was talking to, and he said, yeah, you got to work hard on that one because you have 12 million people listening to you every day. So work hard on how you can get an audience to hear this. Oh, well, yeah. So the week before Thanksgiving, we are going to make a covenant. And I urge you not to take this covenant unless you understand the gravity of it, because it is our last Hail Mary pass. Lord, we're turning back to you. We know you are the only one that can save us. We will be your people. We're going to do all of the stuff you are going to ask of us, and I know we're going to whine about it because we're going to go, not that. We will do those things. We will worship you as our God and the God of our nation. We renew this partnership and covenant with you in faith, in hope, and even if you still in the end destroy us, we will go out with hope and love and respect for you because we were too late. And we will go out, we will wend our way with joy. If you want to know what's in a covenant, you probably already know. If you want to know what is required, read Deuteronomy. One of the big things that are in the 7 covenants that are in the scriptures, it's very clear, all of them revolve mostly around the next generation. Yeah, I got it. You'll do that. But will you pass that deep inside of your children so they will also do it? We must pay attention to our children. If your school is teaching lies, get them out. This is evil. There are 384,000 pastors in America. Out of the 384,000 pastors, 72% of them, 72% disagree with the fundamental principles in the Bible. What? We used to be a Bible reading nation. The last poll that came out, it's called the State of the Bible Report, came out in 2022, I believe. We are down now to only 28 million people in our country that read the Bible daily. 28 million people, 10% of our nation, read it on a daily basis. And only 6% of that 20% can apply it to what's happening today. 6%. We have our work cut out for us. All of this can be fixed. On Monday, we've started a 40-day and 40-night lesson plan at glennbeck.com. On Monday, we're stepping it up for the serious people. We are putting out a family document. You can just get it for free on the website, and it's every day. You'll read it. It's 5 minutes. You share it with your family. You have a worksheet on what is a covenant, how am I going to do it, what is going to happen to my family, what do we expect, what are we doing? Prepare yourself for this. I truly believe the prophecy that there will be a handful of people that save the nation. And maybe it's you. I don't know. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's us. I want to leave you with something personal. Aren't I great? No. About 6 months ago, I have been praying really since September 11th. No, that's not true. Since about 2010. Could you release me from this calling, Lord? Please. I used to love my job. I hate my job. I hate my job. You can't pay anyone enough to do my job. But I love my audience. And that's the only thing that gets me through, is I know who you are, and I know what you're capable of. But I have been begging him, please. I went to the temple about 5-6 months ago, and usually, and I'm sure it's just me, but usually I go into a session, and if it's in the middle of the day, especially after lunchtime, all I can think of is just stay awake. And this time I walked in and I sat down. I was about 5 minutes early. It was the first in, and I sat down, and he grabbed me by the throat. And he said, I need you here every day for the next 2 weeks. Okay, can I talk to my scheduler first, or? Okay. And it kind of spooked me a little bit, because usually when he's very clear, it's like, I'm not going to like this, am I? But I went. And I went every day for 2 weeks. And I kept hearing the same thing. But it took me 2 weeks before I really understood what he was saying to me. And it wasn't for me. It was for you. I got you. None of this is a surprise to me. I know who you are. I know what you're going through. I know the pain that you feel. I know the fear for your children. I got you. Have faith. Have hope in me. I'm here. I am paying attention. I love you. That's what he wanted me to tell you tonight. He loves you. He misses you. He's your dad, like when my kids went off to college. They call my wife all the time. I'm like, what, am I chopped liver here? Do I get a call occasionally? I think Dad might feel like that. Call him. He's thinking about you all the time. He knows what you're going through, and he knows what's coming, and he is telling you now so you do not have fear. I gotcha. I'm here. I love you. This is not a surprise. Just hold steady and watch the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for being here tonight. Wasn't that a wonderful, wonderful time to spend with Glenn? It was absolutely fantastic. A couple of things. Please thank everybody, the sponsors who have supported this. Where's Gail? Gail and the Eagle Forum, what a fantastic job this was. By the way, you'll notice on your chairs, small donation slips. If you could take a minute and contribute something to this effort, we would really appreciate it. There'll be baskets as you leave. Thank you very much. As we say on our show every night, head up, shoulders back. May God bless you and your family and this great country of ours. Good night, everybody. Thank you.